Fighting in the east has come to characterize Ukraine. But in fact, only 7% of its territory remains occupied by Russian-backed separatists. Ukraine's struggle for survival and self-determination, free of corrupt governments and Russian influence, is fought on many other fronts. From stabilizing its economy to defending against cyber attacks, Ukraine faces 5 key challenges that may determine its very survival. February 2015. A bomb explodes in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city. It kills 3 and injures at least 10. It wasn't the first such attack in Ukraine, but it was the deadliest. Major seaport Odessa has dealt with at least 7 blasts over the past year. Kiev's metro stations have been threatened, leading to evacuations, and Ukraine's railways have been blown up. Under the previous regime, police and secret service agencies were highly centralized and often used as personal militias. Some even served as Russian proxy agents. Away from the limelight, a unified Ukrainian internal security played just as key a role in defending Ukraine as regular armed forces. Nuclear power stations, gas supplies, chemical factories. Ukraine's critical infrastructure is under threat from cyber attack. Hackers have already had success breaking into the country's computer systems. In 2014, hackers changed the results to indicate that the leader of ultra-nationalist party Right Sector had won by 39% of the vote. The origin of these attacks? Difficult to know, as hackers using IP cloakers can usually disguise their whereabouts. What we do know is that Russian TV Channel 1 aired a bulletin the night of the attack, declaring Right Sector the winner. One of Euromaidan's top demands was fair, clean and independent institutions. But with the Ukrainian economy tanking, rooting out corruption becomes harder as a culture of bribery persists in Ukraine's institutions. That doesn't mean Ukraine's government hasn't been trying. In March 2015, Ukrainian police entered a live televised government cabinet meeting and arrested 2 senior officials on charges of corruption. Prime Minister Yatsenuk tweeted photos of the arrest, writing, "This will happen to everyone who breaks the law and sneers at the Ukrainian state." Showy tactics like this will need to be followed up by massive reform of a system that ranks 142nd out of 175 countries in Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index. In 2014, $1 would buy 8 Ukrainian hryvnia. Today, the same dollar rakes in up to 21. On top of their currency devaluing by 70%, Ukraine has lost around 20% of its economy to war and loss of infrastructure. And its foreign reserves hit new lows this year, plunging 12.4% to around $5 billion. It's a dire situation, made worse by the $75 billion worth of debts that the country inherited. Ukraine is without funds to support security services or pay for implementing badly needed reforms, and any aid or loans are often tied to big budget cuts and a 40% increase in natural gas bills. In a glimmer of hope, a free trade deal with the EU starting in 2016 may bring some longer-term economic growth. Russia's information campaign against Ukraine has stepped up. From bad Photoshop jobs to professionally cast actors attesting to atrocities that never happened, the attacks on Ukraine's credibility are endless and put Ukraine in an impossible situation to try and counter. Facing a well-funded and monolithic propaganda machine, Ukraine just doesn't have the resources to debunk every false message. But to do nothing leaves it vulnerable to the lies gaining traction. Today, Ukraine's future depends not just on how strongly the government stands by its intentions, but how much its friends are willing to support it through what may be a defining moment in its modern history.